Shalom, shalom. This video is about the Gospel of John chapter 18 verses 1 to 14. About Kefa Simon Peter's prayer in action for defending YESHUA. When YESHUA had said these things, and it refers to chapter 17, YESHUA's prayer in three parts. When YESHUA said these things, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Now Judah, who was betraying him, also knew the place, because YESHUA had often met there with his disciples. So Judah, and that's the Judah from Kriot, having taken a band of soldiers, and they were not actual Roman soldiers, they were temple guards, and some officers from the ruling Kohanim and Pharisees came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Then YESHUA, knowing all the things coming upon him, went forward. He said to them, "Who are you looking for?" YESHUA Nasrati. They answered him. YESHUA told them, "I am." Ani who? Now Judah, the one betraying him, was also standing with them. When YESHUA said to them, "I am," or Ani hu in Hebrew, they drew back and fell on the ground. So again he asked them, "Who are you looking for?" And they said, "YESHUA Nasrati." YESHUA answered, "I told you I am. If you are looking for me, let these men go their way." This was so that the word will be fulfilled that he spoke, "I did not lose one of those you have given to me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the servant of the Kohen Gadol and cut off his right ear. Now the servant's name was Malchus. So YESHUA said to Peter, "Put the sword into its sheath. The cup the Father has given me, shall I never drink it?" Then the band of soldiers, which again are temple guards, not Roman soldiers, with the captain and the officers of the Judeans, seized YESHUA and tied him up. They led him first to Annanus, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the Kohen Gadol, that year. And it's not that year, I'll explain. Now Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Judean leaders that it was better for one man to die on behalf of the people. Kefa Simon Peter was impulsive, a man of action, and when the arresting party led by Judah, the man from Kriot, arrived at Gethsemane, he who had one of the group of disciples' two swords, which we know that two swords from Luke 22 verse 38, were ready to lay down his life in the moment, just as he said he would, maybe an hour earlier in John 13:37. That was still at the Last Supper. This was his character, acting before he had a moment to think about it. This was his spontaneous sacrifice, and sacrifice is prayer in action. The reason why this bandit act of him had to happen was to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah 53 verse 12, which says they will be counted as bandits. The reason why YESHUA had to stop it was because he willingly submitted like a lamb to the slaughter, fulfilling Isaiah 53 verse 7, to drink this cup to the dregs and to afford Kefa, whom we know Simon Peter's sanity, to afford Kefa Simon Peter's sanity to take hold of him again, so that he could deny that he knew YESHUA in the hours that followed. This denial and subsequent regret was a critical event in Kefa Simon Peter's personal development, because it gave him an iron resolve never to fail again in the same manner afterwards. YESHUA drank this bitter cup to the dregs, and having done so, he will eventually return to serve another bitter cup back to the nations, to fulfill Psalm 75 verse 8, as it is written. Now Malchus' name has a dual meaning. It's derived from Melech, which is king in Hebrew, but he was the slave of the high priest. So Melech, but the slave. And we see that's the inverse of YESHUA, who came as the suffering servant Messiah, as a slave, and he will return as the king. Now Malchus also refers to a short stabbing sword, or a dolk, and maybe his name carried this meaning that his ear will be chopped. His name carried the godly order of things as well. The earthly kings must submit their rule and be limited in their authority by God. And a true high priest must and will yield that authority over a king. And this meaning is contained in Malchus' name. That means the king who is the slave of the high priest. The ruling Kohanim were the corrupted high priest from the house of Annanus, who ruled the temple from 6 AD until it was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70 AD. Annanus ben Seth, that was his name, also known as Annanus, was the 64th high priest, and even though he was from the line of Aaron through Itamar and of the Sadducees, the righteous ones, he was as crooked as they come. After Annanus was removed from his position, he retained his power and influence. Hence, we read that Yeshua was brought before him first, in spite of this being in Caiaphas' palace, before he was taken to Joseph Caiaphas. So he first saw Annanus before he saw son-in-law Joseph Caiaphas. And Caiaphas was the 68th high priest. And of course, as I said, Annanus' son-in-law. For reference, Annanus was the one who concocted the false doctrine that there was no life after death. Before him, the Sadducees were righteous, and Yeshua also comes from the line of Sadducees through his mom. The remark that Joseph Caiaphas was the high priest for that year, as I pointed out when I read the text, it's misleading. And it may also be a gloss which was added to the text by ignorant Bible translators, maybe when they translated the original Hebrew into Greek, sometime in the 3rd or 4th century. And subsequent translators just kept it in, even though it's nonsensical, and I'll explain that. Annanus was the high priest for 10 years, appointed by Quirinius in 6 AD and replaced or put down from the position of high priest by Valerius Gratus in 15 AD. Joseph Caiaphas, his son-in-law, was the high priest for 18 years, not only 1 year, from 18 AD until 36 AD. And, you know, the suggestion that he was the high priest for only that year is completely wrong. And unfortunately, the Gospel of John, it's my favorite gospel book. It's beautiful and rich, but it was translated from Hebrew into Greek by someone who wanted to sever the roots of our faith and who added all this gunk glosses into the text that translators taken up in the translations we have in our hands. So when you read it and study it, you have to discern which were glosses, and in your mind take them out. You know, maybe take a pen and scratch them out in your Bible, because they do not belong there. Like this remark that Caiaphas was the high priest for that year. It's rubbish. He was the high priest from 18 AD until 36 AD. Caiaphas was appointed by Valerius Gratus and eventually replaced with Jonathan, who's also known as Theophilus ben Annanus, the son of Annanus, who became the 69th high priest under Vitellius' rule. This Jonathan, whom is also called Theophilus, is the person to whom the book of Acts is addressed to. And you can read that in the book of Acts chapter 1 verse 1, the opening sentence of the book of Acts. So Joseph Caiaphas' prophetic words that it was better for one man to die on behalf of the people rang true for all Israel, because in the end all Israel will be saved. But it also rang true for all Gentile believers. It's only through Yeshua, he is the one man's death and resurrection, that happened so that we all can be saved if we believe in him. And with that, I bid you shalom, shalom.